Okay.
All right, good morning, everybody. Hopefully our presentation here will be quick and we can get right into the nitty-gritty of working on your year-end data. But this morning, we're just going to run through a few slides that will hopefully help you with your 25-26 year-end reporting. I'm Naomi Colas. I'm with the service desk. Kim Powell is also here. Our email address, if you need to get a hold of us, is nde.servicedesk@nebraska.gov. So please don't hesitate to email us. And we appreciate your patience while we work through the tickets during our busy time of year here. So this morning we'll talk through the end of year data points for this school year. That's where we'll spend the most of our time working today as well. We'll have a few little points to talk about for the upcoming school year, and then lots and lots of resources and links are within this presentation. So you'll want to download it so you have it on hand. So as a reminder, all of our year-end data is due on June 15th. So that includes staff reporting, CDC collections, and then our advisor validation year-end collection. Once that deadline comes, then the NDE starts evaluating and looking at the data. And we have an audit window through the end of June, through June 30th, for districts to make data corrections if need be, kind of get those last data points in, make those last updates to all the data that might not have been known by the 15th. And again, that's for staff reporting, CDC, and then advisor validation year end. So we'll run through a few quick reminders for staff reporting. This collection has been open all year. So at this point in the year, your goal is just to kind of touch up on all the data points. Make sure to add completion dates if you had staff who left midway through the year. Add those new staff who started second semester. Make sure that your days worked are reported for your substitute teachers. And then you want to just kind of give the whole report a holistic overview and make sure that there are no errors and that everybody's in there. Other systems that are helpful with staff reporting while you're entering that data are NDE Staff ID, where you can look up and create staff IDs. This link here is a link to our public certification lookup site that'll tell you if someone's certified and what type of cert they have and what their endorsements are. And then if you're in district leadership, we have the Teach Business Partner Portal, which is all things certification. Once you've put your data in staff reporting, then you want to go to the second collection. This is also in the legacy portal. I neglected to mention that staff reporting is in legacy. And you'll go to NSSRS validation. And first, you're going to review any staff errors that show up there. We had quite a few new errors and warnings created within the last couple months. So if you haven't looked for a little bit and you go in there, you might see some new ones that you haven't seen before. Once you've corrected those, some of them you may leave, some are just warnings and you may just leave them there. Then you want to go look at your verification reports also in NSSRS validation. The big kind of ones that are really helpful, I think, are the current personnel report. That gives you a holistic overview of everybody that you've reported in staff reporting, including their position assignment codes and their SPI, which are those special program indicator codes. There's also your teachers assigned out of endorsed area level. That'll help connect your course data from advisor and your teachers who are teaching it and kind of give you the comparison to see who is kind of teaching outside of their endorsement. And then really, really, really helpful is the staff reporting for GMS and the SPED IDEA Consolidated Applications Report. This will tell you those folks who qualify or don't qualify for SPED funding. And we had quite a few districts this last year that had to make some updates to their SPED data because SPED FERS doesn't open until after staff reporting is closed. And those allowances are not going to happen this year. So it's really important that staff reporting data is corrected and updated right now before June 30th, because we won't be reopening staff reporting for changes in the fall. All right, so also in Legacy Portal, you've got your consolidated data collection. So that's a few collections in the CDC. They have the same timing. They opened May 1st, they're due June 15th, and then we've got that auto window through through the 30th. So here's a few of them that are in there. We've got the annual participation report. In the days in session instructional program owner hours, oh my goodness, public districts only have to report their instructional program hours. We are collecting days in session through Advisor for Public Districts. And then this last one, ESU District System School Information Report, this is where you tell us if there's been changes in grade levels. Let's say your third graders are moving to the intermediate building or something like that. You'll report those changes in this collection. Then we also have some collections in the CDC that have been open year round. Your MIPS, your request to submit data late, your superintendent ESU administrator Transparency Act, and your grad cohort resolution request. And that's because these are kind of needed throughout the year, and these are all kind of as needed, with the Transparency Pay Act one being that you have to upload your superintendent's contract every year. Then there's a few other sort of ancillary collections in Legacy Portal that are also due on May 15th, goodness, June 15th, and have an audit window close of June 30th. And those are pupil transportation. There's a link here in the slides that takes you to a page on the school finance site that's all things public or pupil transportation. I can't talk this morning. I think I need more coffee. So if you have any questions about that one, that can be helpful. Then we've got a few other ancillary applications that have moved to the NDE new portal. So you've got your Nebraska Education Profile NEP information. This is the one that if the public go to the NEP site and they read about your school district, this is the information and the descriptions that they're reading. So if something needs to be updated, you'll want to do that here. We've also got the Reading Improvement Act, which has previously had a few other names. That one is in the new portal. And then this enrollment option rejection report. That one opened June 1st. It has kind of a tighter window for data collection, but that one's also in the new portal. All right, and then what we're all going to probably spend a lot of time focused on today is our advisor validation end of year or year end collection. This has been, again, open most of the year, but we're due June 15th and we'll have that audit window close on the 30th. So if you're working on advisor validation data, and we've had a few tickets about this recently, and you can't click through the errors to see the kiddos that are listed in the error, or you can't open a certain report specific to that data set, it may be because you don't have the proper access in your Legacy Portal account. So there are 4 possible activation codes that you can add to your account. The district one is like your base level. And then these 3 SPED, food, and discipline programs are ones that you can add on. So a lot of our DACs will need, I think they need food and SPED. A lot of our SPED directors need SPED and discipline because there's some discipline data specific to SPED. And then if you're a data steward or a superintendent, I think that it's kind of imperative that you have all 4. So if you're having any troubles with that, ask him and we can help you out. So as we dig into some of the advisor validation data here, we've got some resources for you. And the service desk is using these on the regular. Literally every day we're going to the resource page. Data elements is like your dictionary of all things in advisor validation. There's a calendar there, who reports what, and systems involve student reporting guidance documents. And then we've also got this help site, and we've done a lot of work to get more data there. We've got errors for advisor validation, and we list out articles for each of those errors. We were having our coffee hours, so we have all those presentations. This recording, this presentation will all be at the help site. So there's lots of other resources there. If y'all think of anything that we can add or put on that site that would be helpful for you, please do let us know. All right, so in advisor validation, there's lots of data points being collected. It all kind of starts with your student demographics information and your school enrollment. Then we've got grades and course data being collected right now. Attendance is a really important point to get corrected. SPED data, early childhood, lots of program record data also being collected at the end of the year. And then what is this data being used for? There's like 3 slides that we have here of where all this data is going. So state aid calculation is a big one. That's um, a huge one in the fall, especially. We've got a lot of career and technical education data related to those courses. Key point is your SPED exiters. It's important to have anybody who's exiting or transferring out of your SPED program have that data in by June 30th, because that's the last time it's being collected. We used to collect that in the fall and we don't anymore. So all of your Nebraska education profile data, your demographics, homeless program, we use data from the year-end collection, grad rates, dropouts, to get on your fall profile here that we publish to the public. There's MIPS, a lot of AQuest data. Again, that kind of goes back to that public display. I mentioned cohort graduation and dropout rates, a lot of federal and state required data, including discipline. We've got our nutrition services, English learners. So you can see, and there's a whole nother slide here, we are collecting a lot of data at the year end. The accreditation team is looking at your instructional units, your teacher endorsements. So when you start, hopefully you've already started and you're getting to the close to the end of all of your updates. But when you start and you go into advisor validation, we recommend that you start with your errors. So again, as a reminder, you need to have those correct activation codes to be able to open those specific errors. So if you don't see those, you'll want to contact your superintendent to get those codes. There's several new advisor errors that have come out recently. Each of these links to the help site with a spell out of what the error is, and then kind of goes into the coding of the error, like how is the error coded and what data points is it looking at and which data points can you fix to correct that error. So this one was specific to disciplinary action. We've got several regarding our English learner kiddos. This has been kind of one that the error we had recently that's kind of caused some questions. So basically, as a reminder, if you've got kiddos who tested out this year in 25-26, you want to leave them as a participant for the full year because you want to get that funding. So you won't exit them until next year. So the folks that you're redesignating this year are those that tested out in 24-25. So it's kind of a little bit of a delay, but it's important that you leave them as English learners in the year they're receiving services so that you get the funding for those kiddos. Lots of new errors regarding enrollment, just some clarifying things that we've found needed to be notified. A couple new SPED errors in here. And then these are those SPED reminders I kind of started talking a little bit about earlier, but it's really important that we get those SPED students who are exiting identified and then making sure that their enrollment and their SPED exit reasons match and are reported before June 30th. There's a couple verification reports that can be really helpful in determining those. If you're not the SPED expert, take these reports, print them out, save them as a PDF, and pass them along to the folks who do know and have them review those reports for you. We've had some questions about our 18 to 21-year-olds. If they're exiting or if they're continuing services, they may have walked the stage with their classmates, but they're going to continue receiving services from your district. Don't exit those kiddos. They're not actually going to be reported with a graduation record because you're going to continue to provide services for them. And again, the reminder that SPED data is not collected in the follow-up collection. So all SPED data needs to be correct by June 30th. We have a new indicator, the met state graduation requirements, and that's for those kiddos that submitted a FAFSA application or waiver, and we're looking at all of your 210 graduates. If you have questions, here's another link that goes to a very specific FAFSA FAQ that can be helpful with this data point. But since we're working on our graduate data right now, this is kind of an important thing to highlight because it's fairly new. Once you've looked at your errors and kind of evaluated those, again, you'll hopefully resolve most of them, but some of them may stay, and that's okay. But as you're trying to evaluate your errors, there's some tools in advisor validation that can be really helpful. I can tell you right now, Kim and I use enrollment lookup IID and student lookup IID on the regular. The enrollment lookup IID shows you the history of that student and every single district that they've ever been reported at in Advisor, which can be really helpful. And then the student lookup IID shows you every data point specific to that student for your district for that school year. So that can be also helpful when you're troubleshooting some of those nuanced errors like the SPED ones and stuff like that. There's a few other lookups that can be helpful depending on, the data point that you're investigating. And then we've got some program lookups that can be helpful too. So once you've done your lookups, your research, and everything feels kind of good, you're going to go to your verification reports. When you're there, you'll be given a choice sometimes of various reporting windows. So that's basically saying to the report, what data and what time period am I going to look at here? So full year is really helpful because it shows every single kiddo possible throughout the entire school year. As of today is helpful if you're like comparing a snapshot of literally today, which could be compared to your SIS. I think once we get past the school year, it may not be as helpful because you don't have as many kiddos enrolled literally today. But the really important one, if you have the option in that verification report reporting window, is end of year. Because if you have that option, that's the data that at midnight on June 30th, we're going to take a snapshot, a picture of that data. And that's the data that we lock. And that's the data that we use for all those reporting mechanisms, all those data purposes that I mentioned earlier. So if you have this option in your report, make sure that you review that because that's what we'll lock. Just a few reminders regarding Perkins information. This is kind of the one exception to where you're actually going to change your school year in Advisor, and you're going to go back and look at 24-25 school year, and these are the reports that you're going to review to make sure that all your Perkins information is lining up. And then kind of similar as the SPED post-school outcomes, except we're working kind of a year in advance with this one because these kiddos who exited SPED this year were surveyed already in May, but you're kind of collecting the information that kiddos that are exiting this year that will be surveyed next May. So if you had kiddos who exited SPED in 25-26, they're going to get surveyed in May of 2027. So you want to make sure to have all their address, all that information detail in Advisor. All right, you get through the time, it's close to June 30th, you've reviewed all your errors, you've reviewed all your reports. Within a day or two before the 30th, we'll open up our admin approval. And this is a link to a helpful how-to for your superintendent. And you'll want them to go in and then approve advisor validation. And again, that won't open until closer to the 30th, but around that time, you'll want them to go in and look and approve everything. All right, so a few things for next year. We've got our course codes out. Those have been out for a couple months now. We will be focusing on our follow-up collection in the next couple months. And then after that, we start focusing on the 26-27 school year, and we start focusing on that fall collection, that membership count date of October 1st. And that data is due in October. So here's some resources. Again, oh, I shouldn't have clicked on that. I wonder if it's going to take me to the page. It is. Let me see if I can get back out of here. Let's close that. Okay. Resources for CDC, our help site, and then our staff reporting guidance. The staff reporting guidance is helpful too. It's almost like a data elements for staff reporting. We use it when we have to look up how to define an element or how to report data in it. And then, of course, the email address for the service desk. So please, if you take nothing away from this presentation other than that, I think that's okay. Kim and I are available to help you. And while we're down a team member, it's just the two of us, we will get to your ticket and we will get you an answer. Please email us. If your question is specific to a student, if you include that student ID, we can start researching your ticket right away. It just helps us help you faster. So that's it. So let me stop sharing here and we can stop our recording and we can